Hi everyone, I'm Donna Stellhorn, your practical astrologer, and today we are talking about the solar eclipse. It's on September 21. It's at 29 degrees of Virgo. Now, 29 is a critical degree, and this is a harvest eclipse, so that makes it particularly intense. So let's talk about it. So this eclipse and the eclipse we had earlier in September are the exact same eclipses that we had in September 2006. So think back to 2006, what was going on? What were the obstacles and challenges? What were the opportunities that were happening? Because those are things that could be happening again this time. And by the way, I do readings so we can look at your chart and look at specifically what's ahead for you. There's a link in the description. So, of course, eclipses bring big change, and that affects the world. And the theme of the eclipse, which is based on the sign of the eclipse, and in this case, the degree of the eclipse, can give us a lot of information about things that could go on in the world. Now, a lot of these things are happening already. They are just reaching a very noticeable and critical stage. But what's more important is that we can derive information for our own lives from what's going on with this eclipse and in the world. So a Virgo eclipse is always about health and well-being. And so during this time, we may see some big news stories about what is going on in the world when it comes to health, disease, infections, just general well-being of people. And what we need to think about for ourselves is, how are we taking care of ourselves? How are we taking care of our bodies? Because this 29-degree eclipse says that if there are things that you know you need to be doing and you're not doing them, now is the time to start, because the energy here is really loud. It's like a megaphone saying, take care of yourself. A Virgo eclipse is about agriculture and the food supply, and so oftentimes with the Virgo eclipse, we are going to see rising food costs or even shortages. And again, you may have already been experiencing some of this, but this is also that now it becomes more extreme. Now it becomes more noticeable. And the message for us as individuals is, how can we become more self-sufficient? Now, in a society, it's very hard to be 100% self-sufficient, but we can learn to cook at home, keep a well-stocked pantry, to connect with local restaurant owners or local farmers and support what they're doing in our communities. A Virgo eclipse also talks about the people in general, the condition of the population, and so that can lead to some, expressing and civil unrest, and we are seeing that again already. And so it's very important to express our opinions and to be out in the world saying our truth. But this is also a reminder that in our own lives, we need to look at what's not working and make some changes to figure out, what we're doing that is something that we would normally rebel against. And so then we say to ourselves, okay, this is something that has to change. Also, a Virgo eclipse is about how large companies and the government itself just works on a daily basis. And so it's quite likely that we're going to hear a lot more about jobs, how many jobs are being created, or how few are being created, layoffs and things like that. And so that reminds us, that bigger picture reminds us to take a look at how we're doing our daily lives and what we need to subtract from our daily lives, what we need to add to our daily lives to make it better, to put ourselves more on the path that we want to be on. And that might involve, meditation or journaling. That might involve getting into the community, meeting your neighbors, and connecting with people. Now, this eclipse affects those people who are born between the 14th of the month and the 27th of the month. I'm going to put the specific dates on the screen, and that means that your sun is getting hit by this eclipse. Now, of course, a conjunction, a square, or an opposition would be the strongest hit, but even a semi-sextile is going to affect you. And so this hit to your sun means that some aspect of your identity is shifting. That is that you are deciding to leave an old part of you behind and embrace something new. Additionally, it's very important to check the planets and as well as a couple of important points, and that would be the ascendant and the midheaven. Those in particular could affect your job, your living arrangement, your relationship. And so look for any planets or points that are between 25 degrees and 29 degrees, or between 0 and 4 degrees. All of those indicate a hit. Of course, personal planets and the moon are going to be a stronger hit. Some of the outer planets like Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are going to be more generational, so people around your age will be experiencing a similar thing. And I also wanted to mention that if you have anything at early Libra, so that's 0 from 4 degrees, that's actually a conjunction with that eclipse, with this eclipse at 29 Virgo. So that's often missed because of the change of signs, but this is a very potent hit. Now, eclipses allow us an opportunity to see our situation very honestly and make some changes. And this can be something you're quite conscious of, that you've been saying to yourself, I need to change this, or you're already in motion towards it. It also can bring a kind of, oh, the emperor has no clothes type of experience where we say, I didn't realize that I've been fooling myself. I didn't realize that I was not paying attention to this as much as I was. And so then it's time to get real. And so either of those things can help us move forward. Okay, Capricorn, this eclipse energy is bringing you some opportunities and doors you could go through, especially around teaching, writing, publishing, marketing. There may be some opportunities for you dealing with international trade, connecting with people from foreign countries, or there can be some energy here, especially if you're like a lawyer or studying law. All of those things are doors that you could be knocking on and seeing which one opens. The interesting thing about the eclipse, because the eclipse also challenges us, is that something that you were sure about, and this could be something that's core to your personal philosophy, now you're not so certain. And that can be that there was a bunch of new information that came in, or that something just doesn't feel like it fits anymore. It could be that you did receive, like one person said something and it just clicked with you and said, oh, that's a different way of looking at this. And that uncertain feeling of, okay, what I've been believing all this time and maybe making important judgments about now is possibly not true, that can be a little bit jarring, but the purpose of it is to get you out of a stuck place into something new. Now, you also may spend a lot of time collecting so much information that it's taking up the time where you could be doing or implementing the things. So it's going to be very tempting during this time to collect a lot of ideas, but it's time to sort those ideas. And that might be in a very practical sense. You might be going through emails or records on the computer and just purging. You might be doing a lot of shredding or something like that. So something in a very practical sense, or it is that you realize that you just keep collecting more information without processing it, and so you aren't really implementing the ideas that you're getting. And a way that you can uncover more information about this eclipse is through an astrology reading. Astrology readings are very helpful. They give you information about yourself, they can uncover your hidden talents and abilities, and they can also give you a view of what's ahead. So I do readings. There's a link in the description. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, Saturn's making an out of sign in conjunct with Venus. And that, it sounds like, wow, that's going to be a stretch. What it is you could connect with someone who's so very different than you were expecting to meet, or that you meet someone you weren't expecting to like them as much as you do. It is some sort of like spiritual chemistry or even a physical attraction to someone who in other ways, the relationship feels like it may not work. So now this is an eclipse time, and so meeting someone for a love relationship during an eclipse can be, lots of fireworks or just general explosions. So if you're looking for a quiet, calm relationship, it's not the best time to be meeting someone. Now, that said, because this eclipse is so elevated in your chart, it's possible that you just walking out the door will attract people to you. And then you would just want to take it slow because, you could meet someone and have a quick whirlwind romance and then poof. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Saturn's making an opposition to the moon, and that opposition gives you the opportunity to come together to be a real team. So with this opposition, there is energy that you have areas of your life that you're the expert in, you're the authority in, and they have their areas. And now you can come together and find a way that you could both use your abilities for this. So this could be something, in a very practical terms, this could be like you're buying a house and you're great with locations and maybe interior design, and they know a mortgage person and they know mortgage finance or something like that brings the two of you together. And I know you're already in a relationship, but maybe utilize this expertise. The important thing is during this time to not, tread on their territory. And so that is, if they're already the expert of plumbing, then you don't do plumbing. Let them do plumbing. Now, when it comes to your money, you pull money from both Uranus and Saturn is back in Pisces. So this is energy that is more familiar because it's been there for a couple of years, but it can feel like you're sliding backward, that, something that you thought was working doesn't seem to be working. And that's because the old energy isn't quite finished yet. Now, Saturn in Pisces is very much about taking a vision that you have and building a structure for it. Because in a vision, there's no structure. It's just, it's kind of clouds. And so you have to then say, okay, how would I build this? And what would be the steps that I take? So you're back now with the Saturn in Pisces to look at your financial plans and say, how do I actually do this? What are the steps that I'm going to take? And then in a few months, when this goes back into Aries, then you'll be ready to implement. Now, when it comes to money from business or from investments, the Sun is making an opposition to that Saturn and a trine to Uranus. So there is a lot of good energy here for making more money over the next 2 weeks. Now, the trine to Uranus is easy, but a little bit too easy. So there could be some opportunities out of left field, and if you go and pursue those, you're going to get better results than if you just wait for them to come to you. The opposition to Saturn always means that there's some negotiation needs to happen, and as you make that negotiation, then you can find a win-win. So both of these aspects are very useful, but if you push that trine to Uranus, the unexpected thing that happens, if you really lean into that, you can even get better results. And then when it comes to money derived from career, so that would be a paycheck, that trine between Pluto and Uranus continues. Now, Uranus is retrograde, and so it's going to back up into Taurus, and that trine will be there, but it won't be as strong. So this is a stronger time. The energy overall with that eclipse that's very elevated in the chart does mean that there may be some sort of exam or paperwork that's needed. You have to get some sort of credentials done or background check or something official needs to be done. And if any of those things feel like a problem, you may want to just wait for asking for a raise or the new job until outside this 2-week period. So if you were given the chance to completely change one part of your life, what would it be? Take a moment and think about this, because oftentimes that answer will tell you where the eclipse is falling in your chart. And so when we have an eclipse, especially an eclipse that affects the sun in the chart, What gets affected is how you describe yourself to yourself and to others. Then, just less than a month later, Venus opposes the eclipse degree, and that happens on October 1st. And that's going to be some sort of maybe announcement about commerce, about prices, about goods, because Venus rules the Taurus energy, which is the stuff that we want to have. Now, probably the 410 hit is considered one of the most stressful because it is about home and career. And of course, you can mitigate a lot of this energy by leaning in and making as many changes as you can in those areas.